Hello, in this video, we're going to learn how to enter data into Excel. So say, for example, we have an experiment with Alka-Seltzer and vinegar, and we're trying to figure out the pH and temperature over a span of, let's say, 2 minutes. If to put this data in, we would go ahead and write in, the first one would be time. So in cell A1, I'm typing in time, capital T, and then in parentheses, SEC for seconds. Then let's say I'm doing this every 5 minutes for 120, every 5 seconds for 120 seconds. So I could enter in 0, 5, 10, 50, etc. But to make it easier, all I need to do is put in the first two numbers, so 0 into cell A2, then enter. Maybe it's 5 in A3. So I've got these two numbers. Then I will click and highlight both of them. Move over to the bottom right corner of that green little box of everything that I've highlighted. Oh, by the way, even though I highlighted the 0, it doesn't show up as white, but you know the whole cell or both of those cells have been highlighted because there's a green box around them. So it's just natural where only the first box of wherever you highlight isn't actually going to be shaded in. I don't know why Excel does that, but you can at least just check the green box. Okay, so I know that I've highlighted cells A2 and A3 where it's 0 seconds and 5 seconds. I've got the green box around, and then at the corner bottom right, I can kind of hover over that. I see that my cursor has changed to like a black plus sign. I will click and drag all the way down, and then you'll see that you end up having some numbers that are popping up. These are in our case, it's going to be time in seconds in intervals of 5, and then I'm going to stop at 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. Then let's say I want to put in the pH for the control. So the P, lowercase b, capital H, and then I'll write down for the control, or for control, let's say that. These will all be headings in the graph or in the key, so I want to make sure I capitalize things I need to be capitalizing. If you notice, the heading kind of overlaps into the from column B and over to C. What I can do, and I'll actually show you here again, I showed this to you in the first video, so if you didn't watch the first video and you're confused about this, go back to that one. But if you go into the corner to the left of A and the top, above 1, there's that little triangle. Click that, and that highlights the entire document. I can double click between any of these. So let's say in between B and C, columns B and C. I have the straight line with the 2 arrows going on either side, and I can double click, and it auto changes the size or the width of the cell for me, or for the columns for me. Then let's say I have temperature of the control, or of control. Temperature is going to be in degrees Celsius. So I'm going to, next to the word temperature, I'm going to open a parenthesis, put a little asterisk. So if you look at your keyboard right now, you'll see the escape in the top left. Below that button, you see the little squiggle and then the little apostrophe. So I'm going to put that little apostrophe in, then capital C for Celsius, close out my parenthesis, press space, and then enter. Then I can go over to D1, and let's say I have the pH for the experimental. And then in E1, I have temperature of experimental. Don't forget that you want to change it so that temperature is degrees Celsius. I can change it right in here, or I can come up to this box and change it in this little space right there. So if we notice here, again, it's overlapping, so I'm going to highlight all of the cells and double click between 2 of the columns, so that way it spreads it out. Personally, when I do any of these, I actually like Cambria better. I think it's easier for people to read, and a 12 font. So change that. You'll notice that you also probably still need to go back and change those column widths. So let's do that as well. I'm also changing it to Cambria here because later on I'm going to insert this into a Word document that's also in Cambria. So I want to make sure everything is consistent. So I went ahead and have some data that I am going to snag from over here. And this would be you entering in all of your data. So let's say, the pH doesn't look like it should be 24.4 or 24.1. That's off, right? So I actually need to switch it. My pH for my control, my temperature for control are different. So I'm going to click and highlight all of this data. And then I'm going to just drag it away. So then I'm going to click and highlight this data. And notice when I go to the edge, it's the arrow with the little plus sign and other arrows. I'm going to move it over. So then I'm going to come back here, move this data over, and I probably need to do the same thing over here. Right? So again, I'm clicking and I'm dragging to make sure it all works out perfectly. So again, I want to make sure it's Cambria. Because I copied this data over, it didn't keep the Cambria for me, unfortunately. So I'm going to switch that. I'm going to make this 12. And I also want to center my data, both top and bottom and left to right. So let's say, here, I'll show you here. The data is centered top and bottom, which is good. That's where I want it. And I would normally click this middle line to help me out with that. I'm going to click all of the data and then center it this way. Then I would, keep that data clicked and then center it here as well, up and down. So again, my centers are right over there once I've highlighted everything. I also now want border lines. So I'm going to click all of my data, or highlight all my data, and then come over here to I'm in the home menu, and I've got borders, and I will click all borders. So that way, all of my data has borders around it. If you have any questions, just let me know. If you need to re-watch this a few times, please feel free to do so. So that way you become an expert in Excel. Take care.